How the heck are you guys? I am Fastidious. Welcome back to the channel. We're talking Granyt today. Granyt Doorkeep. His fusion is live, and this fusion is hard. This is the hardest fusion, in my opinion, that we have had in months. It is a standard fusion, not a hybrid or a fragment. So in my opinion, the hardest kind of fusion. And this calendar has been brutal, and these point totals have been very rough. So I figure I wanted to show you guys my calendar really quickly in case that's going to help, and then maybe give some tips that could help you get it done if you are choosing to get it done. But I do want to lead with this. There have only really been 3 events so far. 2 more went live today and 2 went live yesterday. So kind of we've had 3 completed, 4 more live. It's early enough that if you want to back out of this fusion, I actually don't think that's a bad idea for certain players. He looks to be at the minimum quite good, or pretty good, we can say. He might have a lot of potential in future content. If Shatter becomes really necessary for something, this is like the most accessible way to get it on this very cool AoE buffing move, nice single target damage move. I don't know, like he's got great buffing as well as good debuffing here, and then great buffing here. He's a unique character. He looks really cool. He's got a very cool passive similar to someone like Fabian, the first half where he self-cleanses basically every crowd control effect except for sleep. However, the damage is a little meh. The A2 damage is bad. The A3 damage is okay. It's good if they don't have unkillable stone skin or block damage, but you kind of want to use this at least in PvP when they do, and then the damage is pretty mediocre. The A1 does have good damage. All in all, to me, he's a utility unit. He's got very good buffing and then pretty solid debuffing with a little extra buffing there. So I just want to get this out of the way at the beginning. I don't think this is a Fabian or a Thalin or a Doggy, you know. Fabian's the best of that bunch I just named, but to me, those are probably the top 3, along with Titus, since I've been playing this year. I missed the Mad Hatter, but I've been here for every fusion since then. He's not to the super top level, and in the grand scheme of things, in all the fusions in raid history, when there are units like Newt and Armand's out there, and I think Fabian's crazy, crazy powerful. He's just not even close to that level. Also, if you don't want to deal with the headache of insane fusions like this, and you just want to get free stuff immediately from the game, if you're starting raid now, or you're starting over, or you're starting another account, use my link in the description in the top pinned comment. It is the best link possible for insanely good epics. The best 4 epics that were available to be chosen are on my link. You get Deacon Armstrong immediately. They're way easier to build than legendaries. They're going to serve you much better at the beginning of the game, and then these 4 specifically will last till the end, and you don't have to stress about going for some crazy legendary that might not even be great for your account, and deal with an event that might force you to spend some money or just have a huge freaking headache. So if you want to start playing, you want to start over, or you want to start another account, absolutely use my link below. You will not regret it. Is he a potential future buff candidate? Maybe, because he is good. So why would they buff someone that's good? He's good in a way that the devs did not sell him to us. They sold him to us as a nice arena, HP-based nuker kind of solution to some of these tricky buffs you face, and he is not going to be that. He only deals proper damage if they're not under those buffs. Like, he needs to get the 100% damage boost to deal good damage, and he only gets it if they're not under the buffs that you want to be ignoring. Maybe he is a buff candidate, and when you consider the difficulty of this fusion, I could see it happening, but is that a reason to go for a fusion because he's pretty good in a specific way now that is not the intended use, and maybe he'll get an even better buff in the future? It's up to you. If you have the resources to do it, he's definitely good enough that you should not just be skipping him. But if you're kind of on the edge of having the right amount of resources, and you're very worried if you're going to have enough for future stuff like the next fusion, and most importantly the Leonardo event that's coming, and maybe the April Titan event we've heard about, I think this is a good point to reflect and say, hey, am I going to actually do this? And that's actually something I was reflecting upon this morning, and my answer is yes, I am going to do this fusion, but somewhat begrudgingly, because it has turned into a very difficult fusion. It really has. I was waiting to make this video. I know obviously the fusion went live at the beginning of the week, and I did release a video then, or close to then, giving my thoughts on this fusion with the looming future Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle events, and you should go watch that, and if the juice was worth the squeeze. But now that we're in it, I want to do a full fusion review, breakdown, planning thing, but I wanted to wait until I saw what the summon rush looked like. And it looks really bad. 3,500 points is, I think, the highest I've ever seen for a rare. I believe we've seen it once before, I can't remember, but I do know most recently it was 3,000 points. I optimistically was hoping it might be a little lower at like 2,500, which we've seen before. 3,500, 7 sacreds for a rare is insane. And it really makes this a difficult fusion, or adds an extra layer of difficulty on what was already a difficult fusion. So if we pull up the calendar now, you can see the fusion ends with absolute mayhem. We have, I've never seen this before, 6 overlapping events and tournaments on Friday, October 3rd. By the way, when you use my fusion calendar, I have the date set to non-American style, where, it's the rest of the world. I think we kind of lost this one. We're doing day and then month here. If you're an American, just flip it. It's not going to be March 10th, October 3rd. There you go. Very good interactive fusion tool. We're very proud of it. As you collect and build units out, once you finish them, you can click the wrench and it updates how many potions you still need and stuff. That is another wrinkle that's a part of a standard fusion, right? There's that whole other thing. So be cognizant if you're going for this fusion and you're light on lesser voids and greater voids, that you are farming this Sunday or next Sunday, because if you don't have enough void potions, you're just screwed. I guess you could pay the gems to reopen it if you were really stuck, but just get ahead of it now. I'm definitely going to be doing some void potion keep farming this Sunday. If we look at all the other events though, it started off very easy. We had a full 100% overlap of gear hunters with Fire Knight, and then we had a gear enhancement event. The first gear enhancement should always be easy because you should be basically saving all your silver unless you have a very well developed account for the gear enhancement events that are happening during fusions. So the first one, you're still high on resources, right? You can see me now. I'm looking a little lower now, sub 10 million, but it was really good before this. I was over 20 million because we're heading into these prepared, right? That's what we're trying to do. But this full overlap seems nice. It actually sucks. I talked about this last fusion. We really do wish the Gear Hunters was shifted right by a day, because then we'd get overlap with the Dragon tournament as well. Instead, yesterday and today, we're living in this weird limbo period where, yes, you can start chipping away at the champ training and the Dragon, but really, you probably should try to maximize your farming tomorrow. And that is really tough. You want the Gear Hunters to start. This is such a demanding fusion. You kind of can't miss these synergistic double dips on your energy and your resources. But one day to complete the Dragon tournament is fairly high stakes and probably, almost certainly, is going to require some amount of gems or saved stamina pots, things like that. So you can see I actually have fully ignored the Dragon tournament. I'm just going to do it tomorrow to get a big lead or a big first positive step towards the Gear Hunters event, formerly known as Dungeon Divers. So I'm just kind of sitting pretty here, and it kind of sucks. I'm doing a similar thing with champ training. I'm going to do some champ training wall farming Dragon to get an extra dip, so we'll kind of have a triple dip opportunity. That's up to you guys. I'm just going to duo farm it for time's sake instead of solo farm it. I don't have a very good solo farm yet. But what I'm going to do is I will be doing Dragon with 2 units and then 3 food units, getting some champ training points, and then getting the Gear Hunter points. We do have, again, another gap in the Gear Hunter, which absolutely sucks. So do the bare minimum on that day and try to do the maximum on Saturday and Monday. What you can do is take your best dungeon you're able to farm food with and do the minimum, like your natural energy that way. So on this day, you could, let's say you're really good at solo farming Ice Golem, you could just do that with whatever the minimum daily energy is, and then throw 4 food units in and get a double dip with the champ training tournament. The champ training tournament isn't particularly hard, but it's definitely not easy. It's coming in, I think, at 6,800 points if you have a level 60 or higher account. That is not simple. You wish it was this 5,200 here. You can see I've got a decent amount of points. I've been using my daily energy as I wait for this Gear Hunters to begin, just farming up some random food in 12.6. You could also, of course, do 12.3, whatever you want. I'm doing my normal farming. I've also done a handful of legendary skill tomes to try to save myself some stamina, save some energy for this really tricky period here and then here. So I put max books into my Lydia, and I just dropped like 6 books into my Donatello. So that bought me some points, and I'm actually in pretty good shape now. I only need 2,700 points or so, a little bit less. What is this, 2,651? We're going to be fine on that. But yeah, I'm just pointing out a couple things to show you good overlap opportunities and also explain that like this is hard. The last fusion was easy, like definitively easy. Donatello was, I mean, compared to other fusions, if you weren't ready, I'm sure it was still hard, but this is much harder than the Donatello fusion. The calendar's even worse, and I did think the calendar in the Donatello fusion was harder than the Crocat fusion, for example. This is even worse, the way they've spread things out. I mean, what even is going on here? Only 2 events this day, 3 events this day. You have this big open nothingness where they're like, oop, you've got a double overlap with the Ice Golem tournament. I mean, what are you really going to do with that, right? You're going to hopefully get a big lead with this Dragon tournament here on the Gear Hunters, and then you finish it off with Ice Golem. I mean, Ice Golem's not going to take that much farming, and then you're going to have this first day of Gear Hunters. You're probably going to be done with Ice Golem, or nearly done. You're not going to get many points out of this Wednesday 2-day overlap. So this Tuesday, this Wednesday, September the 30th and October the 1st, this sucks. And then it's just boom, throwing everything at you. The Gear Hunter starts, you can do what you want on that Wednesday. And then Thursday, it's like, all right, you're going to try to farm with Spider, get some food in there, get the Gear Hunters, hope you've raised enough money for a 3rd gear enhancement. This one's starting, what, just 9 days after the first one began. That is really tough. And then we're getting a champ training with the classic arena. I will say these classic arenas are really easy if you're just patient. The summon rush is pretty brutal, and the champ chase, I'm assuming, is going to be hard. I really am banking on this overlapping personally with a prism pool. That's going to be a nice way as a budgeted pay to win that we can pick up some points, that I can pick up some points. And yeah, all in all, if you have any specific questions on how to min-max some days, just let me know in the comments and I'll help you. But I just think this is a really hard fusion. This is the hardest fusion I've seen. Maybe Fabian was harder, but actually, in my opinion, it wasn't, because Fabian was a hybrid. I think this is the hardest fusion we've had. I came back to Raid in February, and it's, yeah, this is going into October, and I think this is just brutal. Very punishing. And I guess to conclude, I do want to talk about the summon rush. I don't even know the best way to approach this. If you guys have suggestions, let me know. I'm thinking of pulling my primals. That would be 2,000 points. I've got 10 primals. I know that's suboptimal, but also screw primals. I'm never gonna get a mythic. I'm not deluding myself of that. So I'm just kind of looking at it, and I don't really want to use 7 freaking sacreds. I've been pretty diligent to stockpile 18 of these guys. So to go back down to 11 would suck, but you get almost no bang for your buck out of the rares. 20 for a rare is a joke. That stinks. Points wise, voids are a solid value, but using voids outside of a 2x and on a somewhat lackluster, not the most exciting progressive. Shuzen is a superstar. Cardiel's cool. Personally, I already have Titus, so I'd much rather wait for a 2x when it lines up with events. So I think what I'm leaning towards doing is doing these 10 primals. That's going to be 2,000 points, and I need 1,500 more. Then seeing just how many mysteries I can do. I would think I can get to 500 mysteries, so that would put me at 2,500. And then I would do 2 sacreds, that would be 35. That's the plan I have in my head. You guys for sure backseat on this one. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you're doing. I mean, I'm not gonna like yuck their yum. They're trying to make money, but 3,500 is really steep. This calendar is not nice. This is a very unforgiving calendar. And I do think some people are going to fail this fusion, basically. I think the end of this fusion is really tough, and I think this dead period for no reason is a waste. I just don't know why this Gear Hunters couldn't be shifted right 1, and then why this Gear Hunters couldn't be shifted left 1, and maybe even the Spider left 1, so then we like have less overlap with the champ training and Spider, where we have to be making the decisions. Like, let's say the Ice Golem we didn't have this space, right? They shifted the Ice Golem to the left and the Spider to the left, so it went straight from Dragon to Ice Golem, straight from Ice Golem to Spider, and then we had this original Gear Hunters right shifted. You've got a really straightforward schedule all of a sudden. But this schedule now, it's just like, wow, a lot of days of twiddling your thumbs and biding time, and almost definitively everyone's going to have to dip into their stockpiles. That's why we have stockpiles. That's why I've got my gems. That's why we've got all our energy. I don't know, am I off base? Do you think this is hard? I don't think it's undoable at all. I think tons and tons of people can do it, but with a Leonardo Path event looming, with a potential April Titan looming, and with what I would guess is probably like another fusion pretty soon looming, it's a lot you have to throw into this fusion when it's not exactly clear his max potential as it stands now. So those are my thoughts. For sure, use my calendar. If you log in and make an account, it will save all your progress, so you can like leave and, you know, go to a different site and then come back, and all your progress is just saved there waiting for you, and that's really cool. It lets you track, it lets you see how many more chickens you need, because you are going to have to build up all these units, fuse them into epics, build up those epics, keep track of your potions, everything you need. Here's a little legend at the bottom so you can keep track of it. Huge thank you to my head web dev, Archer, as always, who helped put this together. He did all the coding, obviously. Brilliant guy if you ever need help with anything like this. Thank you guys for watching. Hit me up in the comment section below. Share with your mother, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.